All right, so we'll start with microbiology for sterile processing. Okay, please don't confuse this with real microbiology. Okay, microbiology book is about this thick, and you can have a whole year of this stuff and still not remember anything, much like I don't from the time when I took it. But the reason I'm going to start with the microbiology for sterile processing is because it lays the foundation for the entire program. Okay? Because remember what we're going to be in a business of. We're going to be in a business of destroying microorganisms. Okay? And there's going to be a few microorganisms that we're going to be talking about.
How am I already underwater?
I'm in the same boat.
I'm in an actual boat. Because I've been using Grammarly's AI for years to keep me high.
You know, more specifically, we're going to be talking about bacteria, viruses, okay, spores, fungi, prions. All these things, we need to know what they are before we kill them, right? So that's what we're going to start talking about. So the word microbiology, micro means small, bio means life, ology is the study of. So the word microbiology simply means study of small life or microscopic life, life that has to be seen through a microscope. Microscope is a very interesting word. Micro means small, scope means to view. Okay, so it's an instrument to view microscopic life. Okay? In order for us to learn about microbiology, the first thing we need to learn about is the cell. We're going to learn very limited things about the cell. We're not going to learn too much. Okay? First things first, when you learn about cells, we always sort of instinctively are trained to see this picture. Sort of looks like an egg sunny side up. Correct? In the middle of the cell, we have this thing called the nucleus. Okay? Nucleus, yeah. Or the brain of the cell. It's not like our brain. It doesn't write poetry, doesn't write music, doesn't make movies, doesn't sit in class. But nonetheless, this particular thing controls all the functions inside the cell. So, this brain contains what they call DNA, or deoxynucleic acid. Concentrate on the letter A here, which is short for acid. So sort of keep that in mind for later. I don't need you to know how to translate DNA. Okay? Now, this is a cell wall right over here. Cell wall is what they call a semi-permeable membrane. You don't need to know that for the exam. I'm just throwing out the word semi-permeable. Semi-permeable means, semi means part or half. Okay? Part. And permeable means permit. So it permits certain things to get in and get out. Not everything can get into the cell. Not everything can get out of the cell. But certain things can come in. Most importantly, the thing that comes in through the cell wall is water. And that's going to become important later on when we learn about different disinfectants and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, cells live in close contact with other cells. And they communicate. And they send, I mean, they don't pick up a phone and call. No. They write little messages to one another. They take a little piece of protein, which by the way is what the nucleic acid and the nucleus is made out of, little proteins. Okay? It takes a little piece of protein, ties it up in little knots, makes a little message out of them, and sends it to the other cell. Like this, kind of like a message in the bottle. I'm sure you've seen or heard some of the movies about pirates and stuff like that. Okay, how you can put a message into an empty bottle of rum, throw it in the ocean, and then somebody finds it and say, hey, there's a big treasure on such and such an island under a big X marks the spot, right? Well, that's the thing. This thing over here is the messenger. Now, let me ask you a kind of a question here. How many of these dots do you think I could fit inside the cell? Just, you know, roughly. How many? Just give me a guess. Look at the size of this dot right over here, and look at the size.
100.
100? Come on. You can do better than that.
And
If I really work now, come on, look at this. I mean, look this. About 1,000 would be good, right? So the messenger, which by the way is also referred to as RNA, and RNA in the A here also stands for acid, right? And by the way, it stands for nucleic because it comes from the word nucleus. Okay? Now, that's the RNA, that's the messenger. RNA is about 1,000 times smaller than the cell. Yep. Now, let me stop right over here. I'm going to stop right over here. All right, and I'm going to ask a question. Why am I talking about the cell? Well, because cell, and this is what we're talking about, kind of like 2 eggs sunny side up, right?
Yeah.
Cell is the smallest unit of life. Let me put it up over here. Cell is the smallest unit of life. There's nothing smaller in the world that's alive. There are things that are smaller than the cell, but they're not alive. Now the question becomes, what then is life? And life is made up of 5 characteristics. All living things, like you and me and everybody else that's alive, we share them. That's right. Number 1, it has to eat. All living things eat.
breathe,
That's right, they breathe.
rain,
Well, we include the drinking with eating,
eat,
okay? And they breathe.
move,
Huh?
move,
No, not necessarily.
Product?
Reproduce?
Yes.
Okay.
Mufasa the Lion King is streaming March 26th on Disney+.
This is our moment!
Celebrate the circle of life with your family again
One more time.
and again.
Oh, yeah.
Streaming March 26th, and it's your last chance to get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $2.99 a month.
We found the integration to be very simple. I have a system administrator that manages our learning management system.
Die? Yeah. I'll put that last. There's one more thing. We all have to make waste. You eat, you gotta go to the bathroom.
oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? So, these are 5 things that make something alive. Whether it's you, whether it's a cell, or something else. All these 5 things need to be observed. Okay? So let me ask you a question. This thing right over here, is it dead or is it alive?
Alive.
Why would you say that? Well, it may be part of the cell, but it's not the cell. As we can see, it's 1,000 times smaller. So even if you were confused about something, you would look at my definition and say cell is the smallest unit of life. Therefore, anything smaller is no longer a living thing. It may be a part of something living, but it's not. Right? It's like if I ask you to write me a note, or I write you a note. Let's say little kids, when they're in school, they write each other notes. Well, today they send each other text messages. But back when I went to school, we wrote notes to one another. So if there was somebody that you liked in the classroom, you write a little note, say, I like you, do you like me? I like you. And then, okay, well, if you like me, do you want to meet me after class for a little hand holding? See, that's where it all begins, right? Okay, so the point that I'm asking you right now is this. If I write a note, is it alive? And the answer is no.
Yes.
No. But if you take this note, you read it, and you actually take action on that note, then you become the agent of the note. So the note sort of becomes alive like you. You see? But the note itself is dead. But its message could somehow make you do something that the note suggested. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I can send a good note or I can send a bad note. I can put the right piece of information in your mind or an incorrect piece of information. It all depends on you, how you're going to interpret it. You can not do anything, which is also action. You can do something or you can do opposite. Okay? Does this make sense? Well, the good news is that's all we have to talk about when it comes to the cell. Now we have to talk about the differences between certain things that we deal with every day. Bacteria and viruses.
Right.
Okay, make sense? Can I move on? Any questions so far? Yes, no, maybe? Okay?
Yeah.
Alright, so let me erase. Oh yeah, the fun begins, right? I just hope this darn thing is recording. It's recording. Spray bottle? So, we've all heard of bacteria and viruses, but have we heard of the differences between the two? We need to know the difference. I mean, fall is coming, winter, everybody gets sick. You know, at some point in time, someone gets sick from this, from that. We get sick from bacteria, we get sick from viruses, but what's the difference? All right. By the way, all these things like bacteria and viruses, we have to kill in the sterile processing department. Okay? So we need to know what it is that we're dealing with. And this is also to say that this stuff is going to be on the test. The test has already changed, by the way.
Oh, has it?
The new test is out.
Is it hotter, Steve?
I don't know, I haven't taken it yet, but the answer is
You
no.
haven't checked it out?
Well, I can't, I don't have access to it. I would have to sneak in under somebody's name, provide false IDs, you know, and go to jail or something like that.
You down with the federales, they ain't gonna take you.
But you pay the fee and you
The
the
federales
test.
ain't gonna
Huh?
take you.
don't have rights to pay the fee and to do the test.
No, I already passed the test. They don't want me to go in there and
Oh,
take
you
it
can-
again.
You can take it.
I'll just memorize all the questions and then how much fun would that be for them?
Not too much for them, but a lot of fun for us.
That's, okay, I'm working at it, alright? I just need to find a guy who looks like me, but where are you gonna find such a handsome devil? Okay. Now, wait a minute. I know some people. Oh, never mind.
They look like you?
You know, my best friend, he looks just like, well, he doesn't look like me. We don't look anything alike, but everyone confuses us.
Oh.
Why? I don't know.
Because the names.
Huh?
They cannot memorize the names.
No, they get us confused all the time. It's like, I would walk into the post office and he just left maybe a few minutes ago. Weren't you just here? I said, no, it wasn't me. Didn't I just? No, you didn't.
That's the police?
Huh?
That's the police?
No, the post office and other people, and yeah, it's funny. In any case, bacteria versus virus. So we're going to learn the differences between the two. Okay? First things first. Bacteria is a cell that moves. And here on the board, I'm going to draw you a picture of the most famous bacteria ever. Anyone know this bacteria?
Yeah.
What is it?
Sperm?
Sperm. Thank you. Look, it's a cell, and it has a tail. Now, what do you think the tail is used for?
Move?
Movement. Where can a tail be used for movement in? Can I walk with a tail?
No.
What can I do with a tail?
Pull it.
Sneaking?
Where can I use the tail for movement? Come on, everybody give it to me. You know darn well where you can use the tail for movement. There's only one place where you can use the tail for movement. It's in the
Yes.
water.
What about the sky?
No,
Like plane.
No, well, you can only use it for steering. See, it's the propeller or the jet engine that makes it move. No, but if you want to use the tail like a fish,
Liquid.
Okay,
Water.
waves,
yeah,
yeah.
it moves. So that's the cell that moves, and that's the cell. So sperm is a bacteria. The funny thing is that when it enters the woman's body, it actually stimulates an immune response. So a woman's body treats sperm cells as a disease, instantly raising the temperature and swelling of the tissues. The same thing that happens during any kind of an infection, and rightfully so. It's like a war inside there. The uterus wants to get pregnant, but the vagina says, no way in hell, I'm killing this stuff. But, you know, it never ceases to end, and it always works out the right way or the wrong way, any which way you want to look at it. Okay? In my case, I look at my wife funny and she gets pregnant. It is what it is. Okay, so, clear? Look at it. Cell, and it moves. So we understand that bacteria, because it's a cell and it moves, what do we understand about the bacteria then?
It's living in.
It's a living organism, right? I said that it's a cell that moves. Living means it has to eat, breathe, make waste, reproduce, and die. All these 5 things have to be present, okay? If it doesn't die, we have problems. When we talk about regular cells in the human body or any kind of a body, animal, cells that don't die mean cancer. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So, bacteria is a cell that moves. What else is there to talk about? Well, when we talk about these cells, we have to discuss how is it that we classify and identify bacteria. There are 3 ways that we can identify bacteria by. Very important. Will be on the test. I don't care what test they give you. They're going to ask you this stuff. So first and foremost, we identify bacteria. So bacteria ID, or identification. Okay? Bacteria comes in 3 shapes. First, bacteria ID comes by shape. There are 3 shapes. Rounds, rods, spirals. Very good. Rounds, rods, spirals. Obviously, life wouldn't be quite so easy. So it has to be just a little bit more complicated, and we have to give these things medical names. Rounds are called cocci. C-O-C-C-I. Rods are called bacilli. And spirals are spirals. No other name. Sometimes they call them spirilla or spirillum, but every time you see the word spiral in its name, that's the name. Okay? So they come in 3 shapes. Some examples, for example, of diseases. Have you heard of strep throat? Everyone has heard of strep. Well, it's called streptococcus. Streptococcus, that's its full name. So what can you tell me about streptococcus?
It's round shape.
It's round-shaped bacteria. So strep throat is a bacterial disease.
So what is E. coli?
E. coli?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Is that bacilli or spot?
E. coli, I believe so, yeah. Now, the example of bacilli is something that causes tuberculosis. Okay? Even though the name doesn't suggest it. And of course, spirals cause 2 famous diseases. One is called syphilis, and the other one is called Lyme disease. Since we live in Massachusetts, everyone has heard of Lyme disease. Okay, that's when you get bitten by a tick. And by the way, Lyme disease and syphilis are almost identical diseases. Except one is a sexually transmitted disease and the other one is not. But they both attack the nervous system. So this is the first type of identification of bacteria. Okay? So, by shape. The other method of identifying bacteria is by its oxygen use. All right? Can I erase this?
Yes.
So first was shape, and second is oxygen use. I gotta get a new board.
Amazing hits the road with a full tank of gas. Amazing starts at CSL Plasma. Donate plasma today and receive up to $700 your first.
Oxygen use. Can you see this? So first was shape, and the other one was oxygen use. Let's try it one more time. Oxygen use. We have different types of bacteria. Some that use oxygen and some that don't. The ones that use oxygen are called aerobic, or good bacteria. And the other part is anaerobic. That's called bad. Now, good and bad are relative terms. We have good things under certain conditions, and we have bad things under certain conditions. Now, bad bacteria causes disease always, no matter where it is. Anaerobic bacteria always causes disease, while aerobic bacteria does not always cause disease. So, aerobic bacteria uses oxygen, and anaerobic bacteria, no oxygen. Not only does it not use it, it's also deathly afraid of it, and when it's exposed to it, it dies. So, does this help you understand anything about disease and how to get healthy? Any thoughts? If you have bacteria that always causes disease, right?
Yep.
And let's say you got sick with this type of bacteria. Okay, you're sick now. What do you think the best thing you could do for yourself? Fresh air. Get some fresh air. Think of what your grandma used to tell you when you were sick. Would open all the windows, clean out the room, make sure there's plenty of fresh air. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so aerobic. Now, what about the good bacteria, quote unquote? You know, we're surrounded by bacteria. We have bacteria inside our bodies too.
Yes.
There's good bacteria living inside our intestines, making sure we digest the food properly. Okay? But if I take that bacteria out of my intestines and I put it just next door, outside of my intestines into my belly, I would more than likely come down with a deadly disease called peritonitis and more than likely die from it. Even though it was good bacteria, but good bacteria in the wrong place equals bad bacteria. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah.
There's one more way we identify bacteria, and that's by staining. So, third method, number 3, of bacterial identification is staining. Cells and bacteria are see-through. They don't have a color. Okay? So in order to see cells and bacteria, they need to be stained with a certain coloring. The doctor who did most of the pioneering work for staining was Dr. Graham. He invented something called the Graham stain, which is still used to this day. Okay? So, Graham stain. So we have something called Graham stain. People who followed in his footsteps and developed another type of stain were two scientists, Zeal and Nielsen.
I heard that name, you better go for Nielsen.
Yeah. Zeal Nielsen stain, also known as acid-fast stain. We don't need to know the differences between the two. We don't need to know anything about them. We just need to know that staining is used to identify bacteria. Now, how is it identified? You know, I can go to Walmart and I can buy myself stain-resistant and wrinkle-resistant shirt for $10, straight from China. Yeah?
China.
Huh?
China.
China. Also, nowadays, you know where the Chinese have their shirts made? The Chinese buy their shirts from Vietnam. Cheaper to manufacture shirts in Vietnam than it is in China. So, nowadays, yeah, that's right, markets shift. China, Cambodia, where you thought the Chinese made little money, Vietnamese make even less. All medical uniforms that you wear, primarily if you look at a tag, will say made in the People's Republic of Vietnam. People's Republic. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. In Vietnam, it costs less than $1, material and labor included, to make a pair of scrubs. That does not mean that we paid less than $1 for it. I'm just telling you, that's what it is. So how much do you think a person making these things is making in Vietnam?
5
Yeah.
cents.
Yeah, something like that, per day. So, it is what it is. But the fact of the matter is, I get myself a stain-resistant and wrinkle-resistant shirt from Walmart. And you know what? I go out and I eat a sloppy dinner and I stain the shirt, put it in the washing machine, poof! The stain is gone. It's gone. And so are the wrinkles. All that joy for $10. Or I can go to a fancy store like Brooks Brothers, spend $80 for a shirt. It'll stain, and the stain will stay. And the shirt is gone. So you can't buy an expensive shirt to a slob, right? It's Walmart for me. Right? So in any case, you see the difference. One shirt keeps the stain, and the other one does not.
No.
So I put a little bleach, and the stain is gone.
Yeah.
Same thing with these guys. I can stain the cell, look at it under a microscope, and then you know what? I'm going to take a little drop of bleach, go
It's gone.
completely. Stain gone. Stain that stays in your shirt or whatever is called positive stain, and the stain that goes away is called negative stain. So we can have gram positive or gram negative stains. Some cells keep certain stains, and then some cells, if you bleach them, will not keep them. Therefore, they're gram negative. But for the purpose of the test, we have two stains, gram stain and Zeal-Nielsen stain, also known as the acid-fast stain. Make sense? Excellent. So far, so good. Any questions? Okay, so these are the three ways to identify bacteria. And now we need to know the difference between bacteria and a virus. Well, it's easy. Because in reality, you already know the difference. I just haven't called things by their name, but even though we already covered them.
Virus is one of them. Bacteria.
Well, you know
Another
what?
one.
Let's talk about it. Can I erase this?
Yeah.
It's a very important difference for you in everyday life too, you know. So now we try to understand the difference. Remember the picture I drew for you of two cells?
Yep.
And they were communicating with one another? Well, that message, this guy right over here, that's the virus.